Hi, I'm your Golden Retriever survival guide, and we today know why can't we remember our early childhood. Part 1. The mystery of our first memories. What's the very first thing you can remember? Maybe blowing out birthday candles, playing with your favorite toy, or walking into your first classroom. Now, here's a stranger question. Can you remember learning how to walk? Your first word? Your second birthday? Probably not. And that's not because your memory is bad. It's because your brain has erased almost everything from the first few years of your life. In fact, nearly everyone on Earth has a mysterious gap at the beginning of their memories. The first 3 years seem to disappear. But why? Those years were some of the most important of your life. You learned to recognize faces, to understand emotions, to speak your first words, to walk, to become you. So where did those memories go? Did your brain delete them? Or were they never stored in the first place? The answer is far more fascinating than you might think. What is infantile amnesia? Scientists call this phenomenon infantile amnesia. Despite the name, it isn't a medical condition. It's a completely normal part of human development. Research shows that most adults remember little or nothing from before the age of 3. For many people, their earliest clear memory appears somewhere around 3.5 years old. That doesn't mean babies can't learn. In fact, babies are learning faster than they ever will again. They recognize their parents, learn language, understand emotions, and absorb enormous amounts of information every single day. So if babies can learn so much, why can't adults remember being babies? To answer that, we need to look inside the brain. The brain's memory builder. Deep inside your brain is a small structure called the hippocampus. Think of it as your brain's memory organizer. Every day, your senses collect an incredible amount of information. Most of it disappears within seconds. But when something is important, the hippocampus helps transform that experience into a long-term memory. Without it, yesterday would fade almost immediately. Here's the catch. A baby's hippocampus is still developing. During the first few years of life, the brain is growing at an extraordinary pace. New connections are forming every second. The brain is constantly reorganizing itself to prepare for everything it will need later in life. Scientists also believe that babies experience extremely high levels of neurogenesis, the creation of new brain cells. This rapid growth helps children learn incredibly quickly, but it may also make early memories difficult to preserve. Imagine trying to organize a library while workers keep moving every bookshelf. The books aren't necessarily gone, but finding them later becomes much harder. Your brain faces a similar challenge. It prioritizes learning over preserving detailed memories. But brain development is only part of the story. There's another powerful reason why our earliest years disappear, and it has nothing to do with memory itself. Why can't we remember our early childhood? Part 2. Why language changes everything. So, if the brain is already learning, why aren't those memories staying with us? The answer may surprise you, because memories aren't just stored, they're told. Most people imagine memory as a video camera that records everything exactly as it happened. But that's not how the brain works. Your brain builds stories. When you remember your last birthday, you don't replay every second like a movie. Instead, you remember the important moments. Who was there? What made you laugh? What surprised you? Your brain connects those moments into a story that makes sense. That's called an autobiographical memory, a memory that becomes part of the story of your life. But babies can't do that yet. A 2-year-old might feel excitement when seeing a puppy, or fear during a thunderstorm, or joy while playing with bubbles. Those emotions are real, the experiences are real, but without enough language, it's much harder to organize those moments into memories that last for decades. Words give experiences structure. They help the brain answer questions like, what happened? Where was I? Who was with me? Without those building blocks, many early experiences slowly fade away. The power of conversation. Scientists have discovered something fascinating. The way parents talk with their children can influence how well those children remember their early years later in life. Imagine 2 families visiting the zoo. In the first family, everyone goes home and never talks about the trip again. In the second family, the parents ask questions. Which animal was your favorite? Do you remember the giraffe? Why do you think the penguins were swimming so fast? These simple conversations encourage children to replay the event in their minds. Each time they tell the story, the memory becomes a little stronger. Researchers call this elaborative reminiscing. Children whose parents regularly talk about past experiences often develop richer autobiographical memories as they grow older. This doesn't mean they'll suddenly remember being 1 year old, but it does help explain why some people's earliest memories begin slightly earlier than others. When memories fool us now, here's where things become even stranger. Have you ever been completely certain you remembered something, only to discover it never actually happened? It sounds impossible, but it happens more often than you'd think. Imagine you've seen the same childhood photo dozens of times. Your parents tell the story again and again. You were wearing that little blue jacket. You dropped your ice cream and started crying. Eventually, your brain creates a vivid mental picture. Years later, it feels like a real memory, but you're not remembering the event. You're remembering the story. Scientists call these false memories. Our brains don't play back perfect recordings. Every time we remember something, we rebuild it. Most of the time, that works surprisingly well, but sometimes our imagination quietly fills in the missing pieces. And that raises one final question. If forgetting our earliest years seems like such a disadvantage, why would evolution allow it to happen at all? Why can't we remember our early childhood? Part 3. Why forgetting is actually a good thing. At first, forgetting your earliest years sounds like a flaw. After all, wouldn't it be amazing to remember your first steps, your first birthday, your first time saying mom or dad? But many scientists believe forgetting those years isn't a mistake. It's actually one of the brain's greatest advantages. When a baby is born, the brain isn't focused on collecting memories. It's focused on building itself. During the first few years of life, the human brain develops faster than at almost any other time. Every day, it creates millions of new neural connections. It learns how to recognize faces, understand language, control movement, solve problems, and make sense of an entirely new world. To do all of that, the brain needs to stay incredibly flexible. Scientists call this brain plasticity, the ability of the brain to constantly change and adapt through experience. Instead of storing every tiny detail forever, the brain focuses on something much more important: learning. Think about riding a bicycle. You probably don't remember every practice session, but you never forget how to ride. The same thing happens during early childhood. Your brain keeps the skills, it keeps the lessons, it keeps the emotional development, even when the memories themselves disappear. Your childhood is still part of you. This is perhaps the most fascinating part of the story. Your earliest years weren't erased. They became part of who you are. The love you received, the sounds you heard, the people around you, the language you learned, the comfort, safety, and experiences of those first years all helped shape your brain, even if you can't consciously remember them. It's a little like the foundation of a house. You rarely see it, you probably never think about it, but without it, nothing above could exist. Your earliest memories may be gone, but their influence remains with you every single day. Final thoughts. So, why can't we remember our early childhood? Because our memory system was still under construction. Because our brains were growing and changing at an incredible speed. Because we didn't yet have the language to turn experiences into lasting stories. And because evolution prioritized learning over remembering. The first years of your life weren't meant to become a perfect photo album. They were meant to build the person you would become. Maybe that's the real beauty of childhood. We don't carry those years as memories. We carry them as part of ourselves. So the next time you look at an old photo of yourself as a toddler, remember this: just because you can't recall that moment doesn't mean it wasn't shaping the person you are today. And now we'd love to hear from you. What's the earliest memory you can remember? Let us know in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications for more fascinating science and psychology videos. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.